Hello people of the tube, welcome to this next video. My name is Cypher and you're watching my 6-string journey. On this channel I'm documenting my journey to play the electric guitar, my highs, my lows, guitar lesson reviews, just about everything to do with the guitar. And you just caught me reading Joe Satriani's musical memoir. It's Strange Beautiful Music, and it is thus far a really good read. I've just got to a part where he needed to produce his first record and was struggling for funding, wondering how he was going to do that, and a pre-approved credit card came through the door for $5,000. He took that completely round the credit card to the limit to produce his first record, and it was a success. And the one thing that I took away from that was his self-belief. You know, he invested everything that he had. Once the record was complete, he had nothing. He had a credit card bill to pay and no way of paying it. Something happened which was useful, that enabled him to pay it off, which was great. But he had the self-belief that this record was going to be successful, that it was worth doing, it was worth investing in. And I've taken a little bit away from that because in this video I want to talk about chords. And those of you that follow me will know that I've struggled with chords, and I still continue to struggle with chords. I haven't got the guitar out today, I'm not going to bore you with the chords. I did do a little bit of chord work in the last video, so you'll see that they're still pretty ropey. But you've got to have some self-belief. I need to have some self-belief that I can play these chords. And they are getting better. It is taking a long time. I am spending months and months working on these open chords. Just D to G to C to A, just moving around the chords. And I'm spending probably 25% of my practice sessions just on chords now. So I start off with the scales just to get warmed up, then I'm going into some chords, and then I'm going into what I enjoy. And yes, they are getting better. They're not great by any stretch of the imagination, but I keep practicing them and I continue to include them in each practice session, and they are getting better. So for those of you that are struggling out there, my advice would be to believe in your ability. Just keep practicing, and it will come. Now, for most of the chords that I'm doing at the moment, I'm using an anchor finger. And I think that using an anchor finger initially is a really good thing, because it does enable you to get your fingers used to the positions that they need to be in and get that muscle memory kicking in. I wish my muscle memory would kick in a bit sooner, but hey ho. But yeah, if you're using that anchor finger, that does make life easier. But don't come to rely on the anchor finger. I've not had a proper lesson with Michael for a year, and I've been practicing my chords for that time, using my anchor finger most of the time, and I've come to rely on it. So now that I'm moving to what I refer to as helicopter fingers, where I'm trying to form the chord in the air before I put it down to make the chord changes faster and cleaner, I'm now struggling a little bit because I want to use that anchor finger and I'm missing that anchor finger. If you're going from, say, the G to the C, well, that's all fingers off. You know, there's no real anchor finger there. And sometimes when I'm sitting working or on the phone or watching the television, people think I'm bonkers if they look, but my fingers, I'm just trying to form them in the air. Not overly ideal. It's better to do it with the strings, but at least it is getting me somewhere there, and I am moving my fingers around. So I need to move to helicopter fingers as soon as possible. And I would say that if you are struggling with your chords, to start off with an anchor finger, pick a percentage of time in your practice session that you want to practice your chords, and just pick 2 or 3 chords and move between them. But get into helicopter fingers as soon as you can. The other thing that I found really useful is to choose easy songs with 2 or 3 repetitive chord changes. And Michael did this for me yonks ago when we first started to learn. And once you've got one of those songs, just shut yourself away and just go for it. It doesn't matter how they sound. just try and get the chord changes as soon as you can. Obviously, you need to try and hit the chords. If you're not hitting the chords, then you are wasting your time. And what I tended to do is playing along to songs, but also just picking chord changes at random, and that tends to be what I'm doing at the moment. And sometimes I would just strum out the chords, and sometimes I'll play each note of the chord, so arpeggiate it just so that you can hear and make sure that it's clean. And I'm finding that that is working probably better than anything else, is just randomly moving between chords and just making sure that they're clean. Because when I get a clean chord, it's like a few days ago when I was playing, I did a G chord, a 4-finger G chord in the air, landed it, arpeggiated it, and every single note rang out, and I felt fantastic. It's the first time I'd done it, and I really felt good. Switched back to the D, rang that out clean, that was great, went back to the G and completely messed it up, as you can probably imagine. But I'm not focusing on the fact I messed up, I'm focusing on the fact that I did hit that chord, and I can hit that chord, and I will hit that chord again. And I think that's, like Joe, you've got to have the self-belief that you can do it. And focus on the positives. Focus on the times when you do hit those good chords rather than the times when you don't. And if you're muting strings or you're missing strings, you're fretting the wrong ones, then you know it's done. You can't undo what's done. Just try again, see if you can get it the next time. And that would be my main advice, is to just shut yourself away and go for it and enjoy it. And the other thing that I have been doing more recently that's been really, really useful is I've been playing with a distraction. So if I've got a chord progression that I'm working on, so maybe D to G to C to A, and round and round and round, just for those chords, no other real reason, I will very often play that when the news is on. And what I'm tending to find now is my fingers are learning the shapes better, and I'm spending more time watching the news and concentrating on the news than I am concentrating on the chord and the chord shape. And I'm using that as a way of measuring how they are improving, because I haven't got anybody there saying, oh, that was good and that was bad. I'm having to analyse myself. And I find that when I first start my practice session, I'm having to think about my fingers and I'm not concentrating so much on what's going on the television. And then as I get better, my focus of attention moves more to the television than the chords. And then it comes back to the chords in the snap, and I realise, crikey, I'm doing this. So playing with a distraction might be something else that may well work for you. And if you do that, just think about your attention moving to the distraction more than the job in hand. I'm probably going to pick up on that a little bit more as well. I've got a video on writing about chunking, and I use that same technique for chunking, so I'll probably expand on that a little bit more. Now, if you're really, really struggling with forming the proper open chords that we all get taught, don't worry about that too much, because there are other options out there. You can go and Google around, and there's things like Django chords and power chords, and you can maybe try some of those, and some people get on very well with those. But my advice would be, don't give up with the proper chords, because if you're going to need to jam with a friend, or maybe you want to go on and jam in a band, then there's going to come a point where you are going to need to be able to play those proper chords. So that would be my advice there. And in talking about advice, one of my main things that I've learned over the winter is to stop focusing on other people. Whilst I wasn't picking up the guitar and I was getting a bit down, I was watching more videos, and I was watching musicians on television, and I was reading stuff, and I became very focused on the abilities of other people. And I started to compare myself to my heroes and thinking, you know, Gilmour, Satriani, Angus Young, you know, how on earth am I ever going to get anywhere close to those people? And then I started to watch, well, I haven't started, I constantly watch Dave Simpson, who's an amazing YouTube guitarist, and what he's doing is where I want to go. He's spent 18 years getting to where he's got to, so I'm not going to get there in 5 minutes, but you've got to think how long these people practice for and also where they started from. You know, we all have to start at the beginning at the same place. And the one thing with a lot of these people is they started off spending hours. They'd come home from school and then they would sit in their bedrooms for 4 or 5 hours practicing. You know, I have a life. I've got a very busy full-time job. I've got a family. I've got commitments. I can't spend that amount of time. You know, others will then turn it into a career where they're practicing maybe 8 hours a day. So you need to keep things in perspective and not focus so much on other people, focus on yourself. Yes, you can aspire to how other people are practicing. I aspire greatly to Dave Simpson. I'd love to be able to do what he does, and that's my ultimate goal. And I do keep that in my mind that that's where I want to get to, but I've got to keep it realistic. And at the moment, you know, I've got to really rein things in. And that frustration also feeds into those of you that are learning online. Now, I got extremely frustrated when I was working through the Justin Guitar course, which I still think is one of the best guitar courses out there, and I'm not berating it or putting it down in any way. It is fantastic. It is brilliant. But most of the guitar tutors, they will form, you know, we're going to do a D chord today. This is the D chord. They strum it out. Their fingers go straight down. They strum it really cleanly, but nobody actually says how difficult it really is when you're first starting out, because a lot of them have forgotten. Now, what's really interesting about Justin Guitar, and particularly Chords, is he did a Nitsudge series. Basically, he's a right-handed teacher, and whilst he knows the chord patterns, the shapes, he got a left-handed guitar and he decided to learn to play left-handed to remind himself how every beginner struggles. And it was fascinating, absolutely fascinating, to see him complaining about his fingers hurting, that he was muting strings, and how difficult he found it as a really, really accomplished guitarist and tutor. And so you can start to put those sorts of things in mind. So don't focus so much on your guitar heroes and your teachers and all the wonderful people on YouTube that are playing amazing songs. Just drop back to enjoying what you're doing and sod everybody else. Don't worry about what they think. Just focus on what you're doing and those chords will come. So keep practicing and the chord will eventually come. And then that will lead on to the next chord and the next chord. And once you start getting one or two, then the others do tend to get easier, until obviously you put a 4-finger G chord in there, which is difficult, and I haven't even gone anywhere near that F bar chord thing that everybody talks about. So a long, long way to go yet. But focus on the positives. Remember the other day I managed to get that helicopter G chord and it was a fantastic feeling. You need to remember those little but very important wins. And probably my last bit of advice with regards to chords, if you're struggling, video yourself. Video yourself tonight when you're doing your practice session and just put that video away. Video yourself tomorrow and put that video away. Or at least video yourself once a week and put that video away. And then continue to practice over the month. And a month from today, go back and look at that video and then look at how you're playing those same chords today. And if you've been practicing, I will bet you that they are so much better than they were a month ago. Then record that session and practice it for another month. And then look at the previous month and then the previous month to that, and you'll see how you're getting better. And this is why I do these videos online, because I will very often go back to things I've done before. And I do use these videos to look at and think, it's not great, it's not brilliant, but it is moving in the right direction. So I'm not the best person to talk about chords because I still struggle, but I can assure you that if you do keep practicing, the chords will come. It just takes a lot of time. And especially if you're interested more in soloing and riffs, and you're better at riffs like I am, the chords are harder. Probably because that isn't where my interest is. So when I'm practicing my chords, it's more of a chore, but it's something that needs to be done. But all the same, at the end of each session, look back at what you've done previously and just look for those tiny little but all important wins. In the meantime, I'm going to get back to a little bit more inspiration, and then I've got some work to do, and at lunchtime, guess what? I'm getting my guitar out and I'm going to do some more chords. Hopefully you'll do the same, and hopefully I'll see you on another video very soon. If you like this video, please like and subscribe, because it's really nice when people do that. It does support the channel and I very, very much appreciate it. But more importantly, look after yourself, stay well, stay safe, and I look forward to seeing you on another video coming very soon. Take care. Bye bye.